Hi guys, today we're going to be talking about yet another Christmas collection, and I am super excited because this is Odens Eye Christmas collection of the year. And if you guys remember last year, I think they probably came out with the best holiday collection out of every brand, because the palettes that they came out with are these two. I can show you those because they are actually relaunching this year, which is amazing. And I know so many of you missed out on these, and I'm so happy to say that these are back. So this is the Christmas Eve palette. These are so beautiful. Like, I would highly recommend both of these from last year if you did not pick these up. There's also the Merry Christmas palette. I can link the video that I did last year with these palettes up in the corner if you want to see some looks with these. I also plan on having a short up with a look with each of these before they launch, so keep an eye out for that if you want to see a couple more looks with those palettes. But they are also coming out with two new palettes for this season, and the first one here is the Snow Dream palette, which is so cute. It's got a little snowman on the front, and I feel like the color story is also like very, I would say both of these new palettes are more on the lighter side, more on the kind of neutrally wearable side, while still injecting a little bit of color into them. And this is really, really cute. I don't think I've ever seen a color combination like this before, so I'm excited to show you some looks with these palettes. The next one is the Hey Reindeer palette, and it looks like this. Again, super interesting and unique color combinations that I would not have thought to put together myself. So I have already done one look with each of these, and I'm going to do a look on camera combining these two palettes so that you can see kind of what they can do together. And it also just gives me a chance to play with some colors in each of these palettes that I feel like I haven't been able to dip into yet. I do have an affiliated code with the brand. It's just Annette, and it will save you some money if you're interested. I don't currently know the exact launch date when I'm filming this. I only know when they're revealing this, so I will have the launch information on the screen and in my description box if you are interested in any of these products. So yeah, I'm really excited to do some more looks with these because I've had a really good time with them so far. There are a couple of things I do want to mention with these palettes just because I don't want to forget in the end. There's one shade in the Hey Reindeer palette, which is this shade right here. It's like an iridescent pink shade, but it is extremely dry and flaky and hard to work with. I did use it in one of the looks, and I feel like this is the only shade like throughout these two palettes that I had issues with so far, and I don't know what happened with this shade. Like, this to me is a dud and it's not performing well. It's, like I said, really hard to work with, and it's very just chunky on the lids, and it's hard to get a smooth application. But other than that, I think the quality of these palettes are really good so far from what I have tried, and there are some spectacular shimmers in these that I'm just in love with. Like, this shimmer is so beautiful. This shimmer is stunning. This shimmer is really pretty. This shimmer is really pretty as well. And there is one in here that I'm just, yeah, this is one that I use together with this one. This shade is absolutely insane. I love it so much. So there are definitely, you know, redeeming qualities, except for that one shade that I feel like wasn't my absolute favorite. But we're gonna go ahead and do another look combining these two palettes, and I have sort of a plan for what I want to do. I kind of want to use some of the green that is in one of the palettes because I don't want to do a neutral look, and I've already kind of done that. So I want to do something a little bit different, like I said before, just sort of play with some of the shades that I haven't really dipped into yet. So I'm just priming with my Natasha Denona eyeshadow base like I always do. So I think where I want to start is I'm going to use the Snow Dream palette, and I'm going to grab the green shade right here. So I'm going to use this as my transition shade and then deepen it up with the kind of dark brown in the other palette, not the other shade, the other palette. So I'm just going to start with this. Like I said, just put this in my crease as my transition shade. I feel like this is going to be light enough that I can blend this out to be nice and light while still keeping the color. That is really, really pretty. I do have to be honest though, and I feel like the palettes from last year I like a little bit more, but I think it's just a color story thing. Like, I think those color stories were just so inspiring to me and so just unlike anything else that I had ever seen. And also these palettes do lean a little more neutral, which I don't mind neutrals, but I feel like these aren't my kind of neutrals, if that makes sense. Like, there are definitely some more muted shades that I just don't feel like look that good on my complexion. So it's definitely more of a me thing, and I think a lot of people are going to be really happy, honestly, about these color stories because they are definitely more on the wearable, approachable side for people who maybe don't want something as colorful as last year's palettes, but please, if you're interested in the ones from last year and you didn't get them, don't sleep on them this year, because I cannot promise you that these will ever come back again. And I also would not assume that just because the palettes from last year are coming back this year doesn't mean that the palettes from this year are coming back next year. So just something to keep in mind, like if you do miss out, don't expect to be able to buy these again, because they probably are not going to be coming back. So if you do want them, make sure you get them this time around if you're able to, because you're probably gonna miss out otherwise. That is such a pretty green shade. I really like that. It's the kind of green that doesn't scream Christmas, but it also feels kind of festive. I don't know. I'm gonna use a shade called Snowish from the Hey Reindeer palette, which is this very, very dark brown shade. I'm gonna use that to deepen up this color. I'm not sure if I wanna do anything underneath my eye that's different than this, so I'm just kind of going with this first and seeing where we end up. This almost looks like a black brown in a way. It's very, very deep, and it's doing exactly what I want to do. Like, I just want to create a little bit of depth. I don't want to take away from the green. I do want the green to be very like green still, so I'm just focusing it on the very outer corner of my eye and a little bit onto my lid as well, so that the shimmers that I put on the lid have something to kind of blend into. And I'm not sure what I was thinking putting on a pink lip product for this, because that needs to change after this video, because that is not looking good. I'm gonna wrap this shade underneath my eye here as well, just so I can connect it with the outer corner and get a good blend. And I think I'm gonna use another shade for the front. It's not gonna be anything too contrasty, but I'm thinking maybe one of the brown shades would look kind of nice with this, just to get another shade into the mix. Now that I look at it, I think I just want to do a shimmer instead. So I'm going to leave this the way it is. I'm just going to work on the blend between these two colors a little bit more, just to make sure I get a good blend, because this is a very dark shade, so I do want that blend to look very smooth. So I'm just going back in with that green shade that I used, just kind of running that over the edge here. And also just taking a clean fluffy brush to make sure that this edge is blended out. I am going to put on some of my NYX glitter primer on my lid, because I just find that shimmers look so much better. I'm gonna take the sticky side of my brush here, and I think the shades I want to use are going to be probably from this palette. I'm thinking I want to use this shade. Haven't used it yet. It looks so pretty. Maybe a little bit of this one. So I'm gonna start with this, which is a shade called Tinsel. And I'm just gonna put that basically in the middle and the front portion of my lid. That is really, really nice and sparkly. That's really pretty. And I like the fact that this is more of a turquoise than a green, because I didn't want this to be like a completely green look. I'm next gonna take a bit of this shade called Magic from the same palette. Basically just gonna use that to sort of help blend the two colors in together, or like blend the matte into the shimmer, because this is more of a satin formula, which works really, really nice for this. It's definitely a little sparklier than a satin, but it's not as kind of metallic and chunky as the other shade. And when I say chunky, I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, I quite like the chunkier formulas as long as they like smooth out on the lid. And I feel like the iridescent shade in the other palette just didn't do that, which is kind of a shame, but this one is looking really nice. And this shade is also doing exactly what it is that I wanted to do. Just creates a bit of a better blend between everything. And I think for my lower lash line, I'm gonna use a bit of this shade. I think that could be kind of fun. This is a shade called Slay. I may or may not have used this already. I do not remember. I'm gonna spray it a little bit with some Fix Plus, because I like doing that in spots where I don't have a glitter primer down. That is really pretty. Like, I love this shade. And I like bringing in a little bit of kind of warmth to this look. I feel like it's a very cool tone look so far, and I kind of like mixing cool tones and warm tones, even though this is more of a like a cool tone gold. Does that even make sense? But I think that is so pretty. I think this is all I'm gonna do for this look. I feel like I'm happy with how this is looking, and I feel like most of the looks that I've done in this video are gonna be pretty simple, but it's just kind of what I've been into lately, and I think it's important to show simple and wearable looks as well. And when I say wearable, I don't necessarily mean like neutrals, but just looks that don't take forever to do, if that makes sense. I'm gonna take this a little bit up to my lid as well, just to sort of connect the lid shade with the inner corner, and I'm just gonna pop on some liners and lashes. And this is the look all done. I always get questions when I use this eyeliner in my waterline. It's the 06 from Odens Eye, and it's just like the most beautiful sort of muted green color, and I have nothing else like it, and I feel like it looks really nice with this look. I could have gone with like a bluey turquoisey tone too to kind of tie in with the lid, but I think this was a good choice. Let me go ahead and show you the other two looks that I've done with these palettes. So let's start with the Snow Dream palette. Now for this look, I really wanted to keep it pretty simple. I didn't have the most time in the morning this day, so I really just wanted to see like how easy could I keep this and still get like a nice cohesive look out of it. So I mostly played with the neutral shades in this palette. I used some of the kind of light peachy shade as my transition shade, and I just deepened it up with one of the browns, and I threw one of the beautiful shimmers on my lid, and I think it just turned out really, really nice. I mean, it's obviously kind of boring, but sometimes you just got to do a quick boring look, and I feel like this kind of hit the spot and it did what it needed to do, and I was really happy with the end result. The shadows wore really nicely. I didn't have any problems with creasing or wear time, and yeah, I really like that look a lot. Now for the Hey Reindeer palette, I feel like this is where I had the more fun, and it's definitely the favorite look that I've done in this video with this palette. So I really wanted to use a combination of like the purple and the red shade. I think those colors go so nicely together, and I always just love when I use them together in a look. So that's what I did. I used the pink in my crease, deepened it up with the red. I used the beautiful, oh my god, like I can't even explain to you how pretty that shade is in real life. The sort of pinky multi-chromey shade, oh my god, it's so smooth. It looks so sparkly. It also wore really, really nice on me. The only shade I struggled with was the iridescent shade, like I said in the beginning of the video. I'm not sure how well you can really see the application and like how I struggled with it, but let me just say it took me a little while to get it to be nice and smooth on the eyes, and I still didn't feel like I was super happy with the result in the end. I mean, you really couldn't see it by the time I, finished my look with lashes and everything, but I wasn't the biggest fan of how that applied on the eyes. But other than that, I had no issues with any of these palettes. I think they're beautiful, and I think if these are color stories that you're interested in, I think you would really like the palettes. Now, like I said before, my favorites are definitely the ones from last year, so I would recommend those probably over the new ones, but if you like the color stories of the new ones, you're not going to be disappointed. I think you're going to have a good time with these. I think they're really pretty palettes, and I think that these palettes are palettes that I'm going to want to use with other things, whereas I feel like last year's palettes were more for me standalone palettes, but that's just like a color preference thing and just like how I feel about things. But I love the fact that they're coming out with very kind of traditional, for me anyway, like I grew up celebrating Christmas, and so having like, snowman and reindeer and like Christmas tree and all that, it makes me really happy because, sorry, that was very loud. It makes me happy because it brings back memories from when I was little, and I also just like Christmas. Like Christmas is by far my favorite holiday of the year, so I don't know, there's something nostalgic for me about these palettes, and I can relate to them in a way, if you know what I mean. So those are gonna be my thoughts on the new palettes. Let me know if you plan on picking any of these up. Let me know if you plan on picking up the ones from last year if you didn't already. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see some more Odens Eye content, I do have a long playlist. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.